Hello, everybody. I'm Mel Doerr, the Aloha Shirt Psychic, and I'm coming to you today from Chicago, from my office. Aloha, everyone. I want to thank everybody for your support and thank you for watching. I have a show this evening with Arthur, but I just wanted to go on and record something really quickly for you all today. I know with Trump in office and all of the BS that he's creating and everything that's happening, I think it's apropos for me to start doing some regular shows again. I say I'm going to do that, but I've been incredibly busy. Anyway, there's some things I want to touch on. First of all, let me say that I'm not being paid by Andro, Andro, plus Niki, Niki skincare. It's just a great product. And my friend Andrew has invented it and brought it to market. My hands were like cracked and dry, and it's just amazing. I put it on my face. So I would suggest trying it out. That's Andro, Andro, the plus sign, Niki, Niki.com. Um, you'll just love this stuff. It's incredible. So you got to try it out. And I'm going to be having Andrew as a guest on my show because the way he came about this process and the name for it is spiritual as well. And so I thought that would be apropos to have him on. So, Andrew, thank you for the wonderful skincare products and the wonderful product that you have introduced to the market. Uh, it's really cold here in Chicago today. We're having a heat wave. We're going to have a high of I think 9. So in this weather, everything gets dry and cracked and ugh. So thank goodness to Andrew Oniki because it certainly helped my hands and my face. Okay, so let's get down to business. Peter Thiel, I've heard that he has said that democracy and freedom are no longer compatible. And he spent thousands to have Trump choose J.D. Vance. For somebody to say that democracy and freedom are no longer compatible is counter to the grain of our democracy in this country. And to me, that reeks of insurrection. So people are wondering what will happen to Peter Thiel. And my intuition tells me that he too is going to catch his Waterloo, no rhyme intended. Uh, it's funny that Trump ran on this whole ticket of this freedom and make America great again, and I'm going to fix America, and making people believe that they were going to have their intellectual, I'm sorry, not their intellectual freedom, but make people think that they're going to have, their freedoms restored, when in essence, he's trying to create a totalitarian regime to take away our freedoms. When J.D. Vance goes to Germany and has a meeting with the AfD, the AfD is a neo-Nazi party in Germany. And Alice, I think Weidel, Weidel, is running on that ticket. And for J.D. Vance to go and have a meeting with Alice Weidel and Elon Musk to tell the AfD to put, the Nazi guilt behind and to move forward with their party, he's giving a wink and a nod to Nazism, or that whole fascist idea of Nazism. And so did J.D. Vance. I heard J.D. Vance's speech in Germany, and J.D. Vance said in a speech in Munich that, he's all about, freedom and the threat in Europe is coming from within. But yet, here's a person who gives a middle finger to our courts, who is a fan of Peter Thiel, who says that democracy and freedom are no longer compatible, um, who is giving a wink and a nod to the Nazis. And when he spoke at the Munich Security Conference, he was booed. J.D. Vance was booed because of his support of neo-Nazis. That is frightening. J.D. Vance is more of a threat to this country and Elon Musk than Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is a threat to this country. Trump is just happy letting Elon Musk handle things. And J.D. Vance is trying to get his Project 2025 into full gear. Well, here again, my guides tell me it'll look as if they win a few battles, but they will not win the war. In fact, Christoph Heusgen, I think is his name. He was the head. He's been working for the Security Conference for many years. He retired. And in his speech, he really blasted J.D. Vance and called J.D. Vance out by name. And when he ended his speech, Mr. Heusgen cried because he's retiring. And the likes of J.D. Vance said that, Mr. Heusgen was showing weakness, which he was not. He was crying because probably what he sees going on in this country, but also because he's retiring from a job that he's done an excellent job at doing. And he got a standing ovation. What Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and J.D. Vance are doing in Germany, giving a wink and a nod to Nazism, runs counter to the grain of what I grew up with. My father, my uncles fought in World War II to end tyranny, to end Nazi tyranny, supposedly to make society free from tyranny and to save democracy, to make society free for democracy. And what Trump and what Vance are doing is counter to the grain of what my father and my uncles and my family fought against. They fought to save our democracy. And I'm sure they're turning over in their graves. Just for the record, certain people like Charles Lindbergh in the beginning were pro-Nazi. Many were. But after the war, when they saw the horrors of the Holocaust, then they was like, what did we support? There's a small group of Americans that are supporting 40%, at least, I think, or maybe higher, that support Vance and Trump. But that will shift. This is an American apartheid. Apartheid was a system of government in South Africa that lasted for years. A small minority group of whites ruled over the Black population there. And the whites had all the power and the Blacks didn't. The Blacks were treated almost as subhuman until Nelson Mandela came along, and he was jailed for years. And finally, when he was freed from jail, apartheid broke apart. To my knowledge, and I hope it's correct, Elon Musk's parents were in the apartheid regime. They lived there. Then I think they moved to Canada. I forgot what happened. But Elon Musk grew up under apartheid. So it makes sense that he supports this whole white supremacy stuff. I don't know what J.D. Vance's excuse is. Prior to World War II, there were a lot of neo-Nazis in this country, a lot of white supremacists. But here again, a lot of that changed after they saw the horrors inflicted on people that Hitler perpetrated. I started reading Mein Kampf. I'm not a fan of that at all. The only reason I started reading it is because I wanted to see what the parallels were with Hitler and with what's going on in this country today. And the parallels are frightening. Hitler was jailed for a beer house putsch, however you pronounce it, an insurrection in the 1920s. And while he was in prison, he wrote Mein Kampf. So here was a convicted felon who came to the head of Germany, the same as we have a convicted felon coming to the head of the United States. And Hitler, you know, um, passed many acts against the Jews, vilifying them, and then began mass deportations. Very familiar with what's going on today. I see Europe standing together in unity, many countries in Europe standing together in unity, the NATO countries. Trump and Putin are trying to weaken NATO because if they can do away with NATO, Putin thinks it will give him carte blanche to get those countries back that were once part of the former Soviet Union and to get the Baltic republics back. It won't work. He'll try, but it will not work. I see NATO and the European Union, my guides tell me, standing strong. And even if Trump tries to pull him out of NATO, I'm not sure that he can, according to the treaty. But if he does, it will not weaken NATO. Trump is firing the wrong people. He's doing everything. And as he meets with the Russians, with Putin, in order to talk about stopping the war in Ukraine, don't you think you should let Ukraine have a say-so in this? And basically what it's going to boil down to, I can tell you that right now, is what Trump's been saying all along. Russia gets to keep what it took illegally. Putin invaded Ukraine for no good reason whatsoever. That it was supposed to stop Nazism, but yet they're not doing anything in Germany when they have the AfD, which is a neo-Nazi party running. It was all a smokescreen. The same rhetoric that Hitler used when he marched into the Czechoslovakia, saying that there were German speakers in the Sudetenland, which was a part of the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia in those days. And that's the rhetoric he used to march in. And then he took Poland, and that started World War II. So the parallels are much the same, but I see NATO standing up against Putin and Trump, and I see the European Union standing up against Putin and Trump and against the AfD in Germany. The pendulum will swing back the other way, and this madness will end. My guides assure me of that. We have to think to ourselves, people might say, what do we care about what's happening in Europe? Because it's a reflection of what's happening here at home. So my guides assure me that NATO and the European Union will stand strong against Putin and against Trump if Trump pulls any shenanigans there. I heard J.D. Vance in a speech talk about how the Romanians, how it was against freedom because they overturned an election and how that was wrong. Excuse me, Mr. Vance. They overturned the election because they had proof that the Russians interfered in that election, and therefore it nullified the election, and at least their Supreme Court took action. So what's wrong, Mr. Vance? You're angry at Romania because they didn't do your bidding or Putin's bidding or Elon Musk bidding? A lot of countries are going to start to stand strong against this interference in elections. People are worried about the price of food at the grocery stores. And it's going to go sky high. My guides tell me that with all of these tariffs Trump is putting on. So people are going to be protesting in the streets about numerous things, taking away our rights, mass deportations, the firing, the illegal firing of government employees, the things that are put in place to keep us environmentally healthy and safe, like getting on an airplane, or like, can we drink the water? All of those people being fired. Trump allowing Musk to get into the US Treasury to get to our personal records. People are going to be protesting against many, many things, but specifically the economy, which is going to get very, very bad. What I'm suggesting people do when the weather breaks is buy from farmers markets, support your local farmers. You know, if you can get fresh eggs from the local farmer, get them. Get the produce from the local farmer. You'll get it cheaper than you do at the grocery store. And that's going to send a message that we will not tolerate price gouging at all. Many people are nervous about Medicare and Social Security. They will try to mess with it, but here again, they will not succeed. I see the court stepping in and telling them that it's not going to work. It just won't. So don't worry. You'll still get your Social Security payments. You'll still get your Medicare. They're going to even try to bring back pre-existing conditions, but I don't see that flying either. I don't see them getting by with that. People are wondering about Hegseth. When I tune into him, I get very dizzy. That would indicate to me that maybe there's some substance abuse. That's just for entertainment purposes only. I'm not saying he is. I'm just telling you what I'm intuiting with it, and his stand on Russia as well. Many of these people, like J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, Hegseth, Peter Thiel, they're going to have to pay the piper. And in the future, I see them under indictment. I do not foresee Donald Trump finishing his term in office. And I don't see J.D. Vance. If he becomes president, it's not for long, because I just see them out of office. And it's going to come forward that there was clearly cheating going on in this election, and did they really win? Many Republicans aren't saying anything, and we're wondering, when are they going to stand up for our democracy? Because they're the ones that are supposed to be purporting democracy. I think they're afraid of Trump. I know they are. But I see a handful starting to stand up more and more. And my guides tell me there is going to be a Democratic leader that will come along that is going to be very fiery, that's going to call Trump and Vance and Hegseth and Peter Thiel on all of this stuff, and get people riled up enough to get them out there to vote. And I see what's going to happen in certain states like North Carolina, the supermajority there. They're going to try gerrymandering so that the Dems don't take back over the House and the Senate. And I'm just questioning the legality of what some of these states are going to do with the gerrymandering. My feeling is our courts will be what saves us. But Trump and Vance will give a middle finger to the courts. That starts a constitutional crisis, which I see the country going into, and I see very near a civil war. I don't know if we'll get to that. I hope not. That would not be pretty. But I also see states seceding without saying they have seceded. Because if Trump doesn't have to follow the law, the states are going to be saying, then why do we? States like California, they're going to say, if you're going to do this, this, and that, we're not going to pay these taxes that we're paying to the federal government to support 23 other states. We're not doing it. And a lot of other states will stand strong and firm against that as well. Trump and his cronies and his thugs want to create chaos, because if they can create chaos and anarchy, then they can say they can fix it. I mean, all of our rights, like in Florida, they're banning drag shows because it's supposed to have a bad influence on children. It's very simple. Then don't take children to a drag show. They say it's sexually explicit. What is sexually explicit about a drag show? They're using this rhetoric to fire up these ultra conservative so-called Christians, which is about as Christian as this pen. Christianity is about caring and accepting and tolerating and helping, not about vilifying people because they're different. So them withdrawing these political lines is going to stop. We know that Trump and Putin are like this, and as they meet, they're talking about, as I said, to end the war in Ukraine. But have they talked about letting the Ukrainians help out with that? Probably absolutely not. Eric Adams in New York, the mayor, you know, dismissing his case federally. I see that if the feds do that and Trump pardons him, that the state of New York will go after him, which they have the right to do. I see him being held under criminal indictment again, and I see him convicted and incarcerated, as he should be. My guides have shown me that many people would be protesting, and yesterday was President's Day, and people were protesting, not my President's Day. You know, I honor the President of the United, I honor the office of the President of the United States of America. I do not honor the person in it right now. Because in my opinion, he's not our president, because he's certainly acting non-presidential. And the policies and his executive orders, his decrees of the king, are counter to the grain of our democracy. I wrote a letter to Pope Francis speaking out against Cardinal Dolan endorsing Trump and any religious figure that would endorse Trump in the Catholic Church. And I don't know if the letter got to the Pope or not, but I understand that the Pope, shortly after I sent the letter, did issue a decree, or issue a letter, not a decree, to the Catholic bishops in this country, speaking out against the mass deportations and speaking out against Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Thank you, Holy Father. He talked about, something Vance brought up, it's Opus something or another, about loving your neighbor. But how can you say you love your neighbor, but yet you support deporting thousands and thousands of people? And the Pope said, no, Vance can't use that argument, because loving our neighbor means speaking up against injustice. It means being kind to our neighbors, our Latino friends included, who are being mass deported. Now, if they're a convicted felon, yes, they should be deported. But Trump is the convicted felon. So how on one side can they say he's deporting criminals, but yet they allow a convicted felon to be the head of their party, the president of the United States? I have a problem with that, as many of us do. Pope Francis is sick. I understand he's in the hospital. And I see white smoke coming from the Vatican. I don't think Pope Francis is ready to cross over yet. But the next pope I see will be a pope who will not support fascism, will not support racism, and will be a pope that will reform the church in a very good way, and will encourage Catholics all over to speak up against what's going on in this country and other countries that vilify minorities and marginalized peoples. I thought we'd come a long way in this country, and we have. My guides tell me that we cannot, we shall not, and we will not allow the likes of Donald Trump and his thugs to create a fascist authoritarian government here. My guides tell me he will not succeed, but we must speak up to stop it. Oh, thank you for listening. Thank you for letting me give my psychic advice. And remember, write the letters. We have a right to peaceful protest and assembly. We can write the letter. The Constitution says that we can criticize the government without fear of reprisal from the government. So Trump's firing those people because they stood up against him is against the Constitution. And what Trump is trying to do is not follow the Constitution and really make it a worthless piece of paper. For a while, it appears that he will succeed, but ultimately he will not. Why? Because we will stand up and fight against his tyranny. My guides assure me of that. I want to tell everybody aloha, namaste. Thank you for your wonderful support. Hopefully you'll subscribe. Infomercial, I do have room on my Peru trip in September and my Iceland trip in October. And yes, it will be safe to travel, because if I thought it wouldn't be safe to travel, I certainly wouldn't be taking the trips. And thanks to Andrew Niki, ANDRO plus Niki, NIKI.com, for the wonderful products. All right. I trust you all will have a nice day. Stay well. Aloha and namaste. Until later, goodbye.